and welcome. This is Impact 2023, our continuing conversation where we talk about all types of different topics from race, religion, current events, everything that you can uh, imagine or everything that's going on. We want to keep it relevant and real and make sure that we're talking about the things that are important to people in a safe place. And as always, I remind that this is a conversation and an ongoing conversation. And so we ask that you type your questions and your comments into the comment section so that you can about our different topics. You can add in your comments. You can add in um, your opinions and how you feel about them. All right. Let's jump right in. As always, we're gonna just jump into the topics. And one of the things I want to remind people again, even though I just said about typing in your questions and your comments, um, you definitely decide what route and which way that we're going to go. So when you add in your participation and your comments, you definitely get to drive the conversation because it may be a blind spot that we're not looking at when talking and when having these conversations. All right. One of the current events that has happened recently, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but we're going to touch it a little bit more again, is about a famous basketball player. His name is Ja Morant. For those of you who do not know, this is a famous basketball player who plays in Memphis for the Memphis Grizzlies. Um, he is a gentleman who was out of nowhere. They call him the Rise out of nowhere, or call it Rise out of nowhere, because what he was originally was at a small time school. He worked there. He became a superstar in college, and then he was drafted number 2 overall in the NBA draft, and then he became Rookie of the Year. Subsequently, after that, because he was such a phenomenal player, he ended up getting numerous endorsements, lots of money, $100 million endorsements, $100 million contracts, everything thrown at him. So you have a young gentleman, young 20s, who has had everything thrown at him. And so then what happens next? What happens next over the process over the past 2 years is that he's gotten in trouble, semi-quasi legal trouble. It started off with having videos of him fighting a young teenage boy who was over at his house playing basketball, and they got into a dispute. He ended up fighting him, and then also going in his house and then coming back out of his house and intimidating him by having a gun on his person. That's one incident. Another incident was just recently, or more recently than that. He and his sister were at he was at his sister's volleyball game and ended up getting into a fight with some of the people at the game and beating up people at the game. And then came into what got him in trouble with the NBA is he had 2 incidents. One where he was shown on social media with a gun while he was out partying and having a good time. Then he got suspended from the league, 8 games. Kind of a little slap on the wrist, but make sure you understand the impact of what you're doing and where you're touching other young kids. And lo and behold, just a couple of days ago, well, more so like weeks ago now, he was shown on social media on Instagram Live again. This time at a club, and of course, after he's on the camera for a little while, grabs a gun, waving the gun around again. And of course, he's going to get suspended again. But now he's jeopardizing his money. He's jeopardizing some of the contracts he has, and he's jeopardizing his extremely lucrative basketball career. And so there's many different ways we can go about talking about this particular subject. But we brought in some people to talk about it with us and kind of just dive into what's going on here. You got a young man who has everything going on in his life. You have a young black man, and we're going to touch on the situation. So, put our guest in. We have Steve. Steve, how we doing? All right, and we have Chris. Chris, how are we doing today?
Good, man. All is good.
All right, sounds good. All right, so let's just hop right into it. I know both of y'all are familiar with the situation. There's many different ways we can go. I kind of teed it up to let everybody know exactly what's going on as far as what's going on with the gentleman. He's someone who you got caught on social media showing a gun. You got reprimanded for it, and you couldn't stay away. You ended up doing it again. First things first. Why do you think somebody who has everything at their fingertips, has big $100 million contract, has everything they could possibly want, is a huge international basketball star, why would they jeopardize their life so that they can look cool online? Steve, what's your thoughts?
I mean, it's exactly what you said. They want to look cool online. They want to put up this facade that they can do what they want, when they want, and how they want. And, you know, I chop it up as one of those things where he's young and dumb. And he has the access that many his age don't have. He has millions. He literally has fortune and fame. So he can do what he wants, and he has this feeling of entitlement where I can do what I want. And even if there are consequences, they won't hurt me enough where I miss out. And a lot of these young cats out here think they are Iron Man and nothing can hurt them. So he's definitely one of those young men. I mean, at 23 years old, of course, you know, you and I, along with Chris, we didn't have that access at all. We were just trying to get out of college and get a good job. And, you know, so, you know, even if we had that access, we were trained not to behave that way. So it's one of those situations where he has to look in the mirror, but, you know, also the entourage, the family, who's telling him he's wrong. And some people probably are in a situation where they're getting fed by him literally with some of that fortune and fame, so they don't want to tell him he's wrong. That's my take on it.
Chris, a similar question. You know, we have a comment here. It says, "What is his reasoning for his actions?" And now, you know, we don't know. We can't really get into his head, but I mean, what do you think? Like, one, what do you think is the reason for the actions, and like, why would you risk everything again to look cool online? You know.
Well, I mean, I think he's fascinated with the thug life, and if I don't know how many people really are familiar with Ja Morant. Ja Morant went to a private school. He went to a private high school. His mom and his dad are, I believe, they're still married, but he grew up in a 2-parent home. He really is that guy that, you know, he had everything kind of given to him his whole life. And so he gets the opportunity to be a part of this thug life. And he wasn't really brought up in that, you know, in that lifestyle. And so even if you look at the videos, I mean, he doesn't even hold the gun like he knows how to shoot it. He like holds the gun like this. And he's like, yeah. But he's not even really holding the gun like, you know, somebody knows the weapon. So I think he's fascinated with it. He wants to be a part of it, but he's not familiar with it. And like Steve said, you know, when you feeding everybody, and they're not gonna say you're wrong, you know, they're not gonna try to correct you and put you on the right path. They're gonna say, look, long as you keep feeding us, you can do whatever you want to do. And I would think that his father would be a little bit more, you know, a little bit wiser as far as, you know, the counsel that he's giving him. But, you know, when you're 23, how many of us really look our dad for advice at 23 years? So you're trying to make things out on your own, and you're fascinated with this lifestyle. You know, it's going to cost him, and like it's costing him now.
Yeah, and let's open that up a little bit more, because y'all deal with kids. Y'all know how they act. We know when people trying to be cool, and trying to look cool, but usually you're trying to look cool because you want to get girls. You're trying to be cool because you want to seem like you're the man in front of everybody. He already has that. But y'all see kids who do that. You know, y'all run across kids who are trying to be cool and everything like that. Usually, what do you do in that situation? What do you say to somebody like that? Like, because that's the point of this conversation, is that it's a broader conversation. He's not the only one who's doing that. Is it? What do you say to somebody who you think is just trying to look cool in front of their friends? Either one, Steve, Chris, either one.
You go first.
Call them out. You call them out on their behavior. You say, look, think about your mama, man. Think about your daddy. Think about your grandma. Think about those people that actually care about you. You trying to put on for these people that don't have a mom, or their mom is there, but their mom can't really do anything to help them or provide for them. They don't have a father in their life. They don't have anybody that holds them accountable. And so tell them to think about those things that really have gotten you to where you are. And then, you know, and then in some cases, you know what? Fools need to be punished in order to be corrected. So, you know, sometimes you just got to let them figure it out on their own. And you hate to see them stumble and fall, but, you know, the fall is what helps you understand how to get up.
Yeah. Steve, same with you. What do you say when you run across one of these knuckleheads that's trying to act cool and play the part?
Well, you know, I'm in elementary, so you know, I don't really have that issue until they're about 10 or 11, 12 or 13, depending on the situation. But you know, when I see that, I literally take the child to the side, and I because, you know, in most cases I know them probably since they were 5. You know, and in terms of how long I've been at a school, I know the family as well. And I pull them to the side like, hey man, I know what you're trying to do. But remember, I know who you are, and I know this is you're fronting. You know, usually I only have to say that when I'm having interruptions or things like that. But I pull them to the side and check them. Of course, I do it, you know, as an educator should. I keep it real with them, and I let them know. And I don't do it in front of the class, because that means they're going to combat what you do. So you got to build relationships with these cats, man, and let them know that, hey, I know who you are. You don't got a lot of kick it. You know, basically, come on, man, you perpetrating a fraud and a part-time broad. That's what Martin said.
Right.
Like you just gotta understand. It's all about building relationships with these cats, man. And who is the person in John Morant's camp that has that relationship to pull him to the side? Like, hey man, come on, man. You not this, and it's embarrassing. Yeah. So
yeah. And on top of that, he's got I think they have the youngest average age of a basketball team in the NBA. Like everybody on the team is like under 29, something like that. So you're playing with a whole bunch of kids that are the same age as you.
Right.
And, you know, you don't have a whole lot of mentorship, you know, from, you know, people that are in that same level of life that you're in. Mm-hmm. And this, I mean, I don't want to give him a pass, but it's a situation that there's very few people in life that get into a situation like he is in. Mm-hmm. And when you're kind of stuck in that vacuum of the streets and life, you know, I kind of feel for him because it's hard to kind of pull yourself out. Because I know when I was 23, I didn't really think about how the rest of the world was seeing me. But now in this age where everybody can see every move you make, it changes things, you know, and especially because I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Shaq, and all of those great NBA legends had nights where they were doing ridiculously stupid things that people never saw on camera.
Yeah,
and so
you'll hear them say that too.
And it's yeah, so it's. I mean, I feel for the brother because he's in a situation that only a few people have ever been in, and he doesn't really have that mentorship around him to help him navigate it.
Yeah. Well, that hits on what the comment here says. It appears that he tends to hang out with the wrong crowd whenever the issues are occurring. And like you're saying, he's on a young team. He's around a bunch of young people. Matter of fact, you know, no shot at his father, but his father is extremely young. Like his father look like they're the same age for real.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about a lot of young people. Another comment: at some point, we're accountable for our own actions. But you know what? Let's roll with this a little bit. Let's get there a little bit on this. All right. First thing, I've heard people say some things, and we've seen it online. You know, in Memphis, where he was at. Let's be real. He was at a strip club in Memphis. They have open carry laws, so he wasn't violating the law by having a gun in Memphis.
He didn't do anything.
He was violating.
He didn't do anything illegal.
Right. He didn't do anything illegal. Now he did get in trouble with the NBA because the NBA told him, "Hey man, don't do this again," and he promised not to do it. But he didn't break a law. He wasn't doing anything illegal. And there's people out there that's like, well, they're attacking another young black man. They're just trying to take him down. You know, if this was a different group of people, they would be talking about gun rights all day. Like, you can't be showing guns. Is this a situation where we just having a young black man being attacked?
No. It's a case of stupidity. It's just simple as that. I just, you know, I mean, y'all know I'm a comic book guy, and Spider-Man's Uncle Ben said, "With great power comes great responsibility." Mm-hmm. This dude has a great responsibility. You know, he didn't break any laws, but he has a contract that says, if probably the NBA contract and probably with the Memphis Grizzlies, he has to behave a certain way because he is a brand. He's a part of two brands, the National Basketball Association and the Memphis Grizzlies. Three. And, you know, Nike dropped him. They pulled his shoe. He's missing out on millions now.
Yeah.
So he has a responsibility because people 2, 3, 4, 5 years younger than him are literally looking up to him.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? So think about it. My favorite, my GOAT is Shaq. Shaq is not 10 years older than me, than us. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He's probably 10 years older than us. So when Shaq got in the league, I'm like, oh, snap, he broke the rim. And I'm looking at this dude like, man, this dude's awesome. Like, and, you know, so if Shaq was doing this in the early 90s and my mother and father saw it, my mother probably would have said something about it where, oh, you shouldn't be looking up to him and yada, yada. You know, that's why, shoot, every time Wu-Tang came on the radio, we in the car in Big Red or something, she cuts it off. Hey, that's Wu-Tang.
Right.
You know, so, but that's what I'm saying. It's a culture where now we're living in a culture where, you know, the music is influential. Think about the music that I was playing in the background. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to ride around flashing guns with Earth, Wind, and Fire pumping.
Right.
September. We're not going to do that.
Right.
You know, so you got to understand, like, it's just the culture where negative is good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that contract that the NBA made him sign in the Memphis Grizzlies, negative is not good. Negative is bad.
And let's be clear, just to be clear, what I was informed of is that every contract has a morality clause. Mm-hmm. And so they're allowed to do what they want to do. So as much as it's not a crime, because you signed that morality clause and you have to be an example to people, they're able to punish you. But Chris, I want you to touch on it too. I mean, do you feel like maybe it's a little bit of a young black man being attacked, or how do you come in on that one?
You know, the first time I kind of felt like, okay, he's in a strip club. He got to open. You know, I was familiar with the law. You know, Memphis. You know, you got to open carry. It was stupid, but you know, let's or slap on the wrist and you know let him go on. The second time, now you know what? Now you're just showing that you're a fool. You know, just plain foolery here, and you're not paying attention to your environment, and you really honestly think that you're above the expectation, and fortunately.
So we're going to pivot now into responsibility. You know, Steve, the question for you is, what is his responsibility to the black community? Because you talked about the groups that he's a part of. He's part of NBA, he's a part of Nike, but he's also a part of Black 5 Black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a young black man. And, you know, back in the day, we had a responsibility. That's why people got on, you know, we used to get on our NBA players a lot, but not football players a lot, like if they acted up. Like, man, you represent for the whole group. What is that really, is that still a thing? Like, should we be expecting our black celebrities, our black athletes to be responsible for acting a certain way because you represent the whole black community?
Yeah, I mean, think about what all these non-African Americans are saying about him. Imagine what the parents of the kids that don't look like us are saying about him at the dinner table now. You know, so yeah, he does. He might not want to. He might not want it. He might not have asked for it. But he is that. Yeah. Just like I am. If I, me being an educator, if I go out and flash a gun, I'm not breaking any laws. Okay, Carolina's an open carry state too, but I'm a teacher. And I teach these students how to behave socially, and all that. So my thing is, yeah. And, it would be like that with me being a regular guy. So if you're a millionaire, it should actually be a little more potent. It's not fair. No. But Charles Barkley had that iconic commercial. I'm not a role model. But hey, man, he's my third favorite player of all time. Just because, that's just how it is. Like, I love watching that dude play. I love, how he was. But at the same time, I still looked up to Charles Barkley. I didn't act like him because I had parents in the house that would definitely not allow it. But, he had the responsibility. And that is a piece of it.
Yeah. Well, here's a comment that went around. And I think we need to kind of think about this. And again, y'all, we all deal we'll come across kids. So, Chris, is this a situation of where it might be an addiction? And people are like, oh, he's an addiction, not to what you may think, not drugs, not alcohol, but addicted to social media. And that addiction is a real situation where he can't control himself. And that's the problem with what's going on here. Because I think as we get a little bit into this, a lot of kids are gonna have that same addiction. You know how they are. They can't put the phone down. They got to take pictures of everything that they eat. If they go somewhere, what's more important to take the photo of me going to Mexico than actually going. Like, if I don't got my phone, I might as well not even go. Is this a situation you think where it could possibly be an addiction and we should be looking at this in a different way? Or is that just an excuse?
I don't think he's addicted to it. I think he just has been moving foolishly. He's a basketball player, like Steve said. He should be focused on basketball. Like, the only thing that he should be going live for is basketball. Like, he got a Powerade deal. He had a Nike deal. his priorities are in the streets, though. You know, like he is really probably, I would say, out of, you know, and I'm 44 years old. He is one of the most exciting basketball players I've ever seen. Like he's aggressive. He's fun to watch. He gets the crowd involved. He is an amazing basketball talent. I hate the fact that he's moving so foolishly in the streets, because if he really gets caught in his life, and a lot of people get caught up in it and they're not really from that lifestyle. It happened to Tupac. It happened to Tekashi 6ix9ine. They get caught up in these lifestyles and they ruin everything that they had going for themselves. And it's just trying to fit in with a group of people that you're not supposed to be focused on. You're an NBA player. You should be in there with LeBron, and you should be in there with, you know, talking to veterans like, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and talking to people like Shaq and Charles Barkley, and you should be trying to learn so you can become a better basketball player. And you're putting your energy and your effort into the streets. And if that's what you want, if that's the lifestyle he wants, you know what? Go for it. I just hate to see an amazing talent like that, you know.
Yeah. You made an interesting comment, because, you know, you talk about LeBron James and you sit back and you're like, well, man, it's amazing what he did. But in actuality, you know what? It's not. We should be focusing in on the fact that there's a bunch of NBA players, young, all different races, all different cultures, who majority of them, the overwhelming majority of them, are doing great. They're not out here acting a fool. They get money at 20, 19, you know, whether it be $100 million or whether they getting $2 million or whatever. You put money into people's hands. These kids ain't finished college. Most of them didn't even play, like really do anything in high school other than play ball, but yet they're all succeeding. So we should be really highlighting the fact that, and be proud of the fact that Ja Morant is the rarity, not the he's the exception, not the rule. There we go. To say that some more. So I just want to make sure that I highlight that, to make sure if anybody's looking on here like, man, these young kids, these black kids, and they all terrible. Like, nah, majority of them doing great. You know, for every Ja Morant, you got a bunch of LeBrons, you got a bunch of you got a bunch of other guys.
A lot of young players, a lot of young basketball players.
So I you know,
and that's a great point. I mean, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
He is the exception, and but I mean, I really honestly believe, you know, if you don't have the right mentality and you don't have the right people in your circle, you know, you're not going to make good decisions, you know, and I think that's where he's at. His mind is in the streets, and he doesn't have anybody to pull him out.
Yeah. Well, one more question. We'll both of y'all be able to touch on this. There was a football player. His name was Ricky Williams. I think y'all might remember him. He was amazing. He went to University of Texas. He was a running back. He was amazing. He got drafted, ended up going to the Miami Dolphins. And Ricky Williams could have been a Hall of Famer. But what happened with Ricky Williams is that he got caught on some drug charges and then got suspended. Then he came back again, got caught again on drug charges and got suspended. And people were like, dude, all you got to do, you know when the test is coming, it's just not smoke, because he was smoking weed or marijuana, whatever y'all want to call it, during the test time. And he got caught. And then, you know, it's not that hard to beat the test in the NFL. Now, it seems a little silly now because of where we are now, you know, with the legalization of marijuana and things like that. But back then, they won't play with it. And so what Ricky Williams did, and I don't know if y'all remember this, he retired from the league and was like, you know what, I'm going to go live up in this convent up in the mountains and just smoke weed all day. That's what I want to do. I love weed more than I love football and all the money and all the whatever. And I bring that up because there's a possibility at the end of the day that may be what Ja Morant wants to do as well. I love being on Instagram Live, going around here living this thug life, more than basketball, money, whatever else is out, fame. I love being a hood star.
Yeah.
Is that okay? For Ricky Williams, at the end of the day, if you want to go smoke weed all day, it's okay. That's your choice. That's how I felt. But how do you feel? If that's what if he just is like, look, man, I'm living this life and that's what I want. Is that okay? Should we be okay with that? Steve, I mean, you touch on it first. Is that okay?
That's his life. He can do what he wants with it, but it's stupid. That's his business. I mean, it is his business. But I mean, I don't know what Nas say. Fake thug, no love. Like, come on, man. Like, hey man, you have everything. People would kill to have a percentage of what he has, and he's disrespecting it. But if he wants to do that, he's not going to last long in it because he's not built for it. But if that's his decision, who can control that? None of us. So that's why, all I can do and try to help these kids to avoid that behavior when they get to that age. That's the power we have. So that's the power I try to give out. But again, once those fifth graders hit the door, hey, I did what I could. So, that's how I see it.
I mean, that was an interesting word, disrespecting it. You disrespecting the talent and the opportunity that God then gave you. Like, I love that. Chris, same thing. If that's the lifestyle he wants to live and he wants to pick that over the NBA and everything else, should we be okay with that?
I mean, we don't have to be, but we'll just be upset for no reason. Because, I mean, that's his life. And, if he belongs to the streets, I mean, the streets will take him. And the streets have embraced him. They really have. Like, and, Steve teaches elementary school. I teach middle school. And I teach seventh graders. These kids love Ja Morant. Like, they don't even really look at LeBron. They love Ja Morant. He's the face right now of the NBA for a lot of these kids. And because he represents an element that the NBA doesn't necessarily promote. And so, if he belongs to the streets will definitely take him. And we'll see. The chapters, still being written on Ja Morant basketball career. So I would love to see him overcome this and become, a Hall of Fame, legendary player. I mean, you got to remember Kobe had a few incidents, and the world turned on him too. And so I just hope that, that he decides to change it and focus on the things that have gotten him to where he is.
All right. I mean, I appreciate both of y'all. Our time is gone. I'm gonna tell you one thing real quick. You know how we old because they used to drag Allen Iverson like he was this thug and all this kind of stuff, and he did none of this stuff. Like, the worst thing he ever did was throw a chair at a bowling alley. Like, come on.
But you know what the difference between Iverson and Ja Morant? Iverson was from the streets and made it to the NBA. Ja Morant made it to the NBA and is trying to go to the streets. And so, and that's why Iverson, we can sit down and say he overcame his situation to become great. Ja Morant is before he becomes great. I can't say he's going to be great yet. He's working on destroying it, and that's the difference between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Allen Iverson also had his college coach that would be in his ear correcting him all the time, even in his pro career.
John Thompson and the mentors, man, they made so much.
Yeah.
So, who's that? The question is, who's that on Ja's side? Because clearly it's nobody. And if it's somebody, they need some professional developments on how to do better.
Nah, his
All
coach
right,
just
well-
for the wins, yo.
Yeah. Well, look, I know all of us out here, man. We hope the best for him. Hopefully get your mind right, man. Get your head straight. And we all got to deal with that at some point in time. We all got to grow up. So, but thank y'all for coming on here and talking about this. Definitely. Thank you for all the comments that came in. As always, I know we're a little over our time, but yeah. Thank everybody. We'll be back here again next week. Same time, same place, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of good stuff. All right. Have a good one.
Peace out.